Testing. Half Wheel's pre-show coverage of the 2018 IPCPR Convention and Trade Show is sponsored by Drew Estate, the rebirth of cigars.
All right, so we should be live here at the Half Wheel Studios, and my name is Charlie Minato.
And I'm Brooks Whittington.
Brooks, are you gonna move the iPad out of there? And we are here to do our top 5 companies to watch at the 2018 IPCPR Convention and Trade Show, which begins next week, sort of, next Friday or Saturday, depending on how you look at it. This is the second of our planned 6 pre-show Facebook Live / YouTube shows, and this is sponsored by Drew Estate, as you just heard. If you check out drewestate.com/IPCPR, they have a contest going. We also have an individual contest, which I will get to shortly. And so we've got prizes to give away. For those wondering, our next broadcast will be on Thursday. We'll be doing our top 5 accessories to watch. I don't know if there are like 10 accessories that have been announced yet. Hopefully Zycar announces some stuff shortly, so we have some more stuff to talk about, or Prometheus, or SC DuPont, or somebody else not named Calibri, or Daniel Marshall. So we'll be doing that on Thursday, and then we have 3 more broadcasts next week. We have top 5 cigars that we're looking forward to. We also are going to do another to be determined Facebook Live show, and then we have the big Facebook Live show from Las Vegas next Friday, July 13th. Details will be on the site probably early next week. We have a whole bunch of guests. We have giveaways. We're going to have all of Team Half Wheel will be in and out over the course of 2.5, 3 hours, and once again, it'll be live from the trade show floor the day before the trade show portion of the convention opens. So as far as today goes, we are once again giving away some items, or giving away an item from Drew Estate. It's going to work very similar to the last contest, so all you need to do is leave a comment. We have picked a number out ahead of time, so let's say the number is 10. It is not. If you are the 10th commenter, not the 10th comment, but the 10th commenter, then you will win the prize. That prize is not this specific skateboard, but it will give you an idea of what it's going to be like. So Drew Estate every year does these items from their Subculture Studio, which is their art studio that's right next door to the factory. They always do these hand-painted items. They obviously at one point last year were skateboards. The year before, I don't remember, tobacco leaves. They've done hard hats. They've done multiple versions
Sneakers.
of shoes. And sneakers and chivettas and all sorts of other things. They have not told us what the item for this year is going to be. I guess that looks awkward. But it's going to be something. It's going to be hand-painted. And so if you win today's contest, you will win one of these items. As I mentioned in our last video, they probably are not going to ship until close to August 1st. But we will take your name down, and once Drew Estate announces what the items are and has the items in the States, we will ship them, or they will ship them to you. So once again, all you need to do is leave a comment. We have a question today. If you want to answer that would be great, and we'll address some of those comments later on. And that question today is, what is your number 1 company to look for at the 2018 IPCPR Convention and Trade Show? So,
And don't forget, don't be number 10, because that's obviously
don't
not
be number
it.
10, because it's not it. Brooks,
Yes.
I think we have a beer.
Yes, so we're going to open up a beer today. This is the Never Never Forever Forever by the Vale Brewing Company in Richmond, Virginia. This is a double passion fruit goza. It is extremely good, and if you like the sour kind of beers, this is going to be one of the best that you can buy anywhere, as far as I'm concerned. We are putting these in glasses from The Answer. This is their 8-bit series, which is depicts different games, 8-bit games. I think you probably know which ones those are. So maybe you don't. Maybe you don't.
Stuff floating around in that.
Oh
beer.
yeah, it's all right. That's good. You'll be all right.
I don't know if you can see that, but there is. I need to like flash a light at it, but there's a ton of the bottom of that looks gross.
That's called fruit, buddy. Good stuff. Good.
That is good.
It is good.
This is part of a game that we play at the office where Brooks brings me beer and then asks me what I think about it. And most of the time it's crap. But then he tells me some sob story about how some guy waited in line for 4 hours in the rain. And there was a thunderstorm, and then there was a tornado, and he only got 2 4-packs, and Brooks traded God knows what for it, and then the beer is green and tastes like crap.
This is all true. Unfortunately, Charlie has the palate of a billy goat, so cheers.
You want to drink more of that J. Wakefield green crap?
It was interesting, at least.
It was green and terrible. All right. Chances are you've not come here for beer, although if you are looking for beer, we have a website called Tanamu.com that's got all sorts of beer news and occasionally some reviews. The reviews are my fault, at least at the current moment. But you've come here for cigars and specifically to learn what are the top 5 companies that Brooks and I are looking for to at the IPCPR Convention and Trade Show. Now, we should be clear, I have not seen Brooks' list other than the one that's currently turned over, and Brooks has not seen my list other than the one that he accidentally saw as I was printing it out earlier. So most of these lists we have not seen before. They are not identical. I'm sure we have very different lists, and it's going to be as fascinating for me as it will be probably for you and Brooks to see what these lists are like. And if you have questions about companies that are on this list, certainly ask them. Patrick is monitoring the comments section, and we will address them later. We're also going to look at all the other companies that have been suggested by you guys, and we'll briefly run down those at the end of the video. So, Brooks, without further, do you want to move that back? Because we'll just, somewhere in the frame where it's not kind of cut off. All right. Professional photographer. Brooks, why don't you start with your number 5?
All right, number 5. For me, number 5, Daniel Marshall. Whoops. Okay, can't really read that.
You got to put that just straight.
Straight up. All right. I think they can get the idea. Daniel Marshall is releasing a couple of different things. One of the most interesting that I want to see is the 24 karat art cigar, which is
koi fish.
Koi fish, yes.
It's got koi fish on it.
Correct. I really want to see the art and what they've done with it. I actually smoked the first one of the first 24 karat gold cigars from Daniel Marshall, and you can see the review on our site. It was a interesting cigar, and I got quite a few comments on it, and I felt very, 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 very rich smoking it. But I'm interested to see how the difference between the two in terms of looks and what they've done with the art on top of the gold foil. Also, Daniel Marshall is releasing some affordable humidors, which I'm also interested to see. Most of their stuff is fairly expensive, and so I'm interested to see what the affordable humidors actually have in terms of, affordability.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see what the Ambiente humidors look like, the new affordable luxury collection. So the Ambiente is already his affordable humidors. These are even cheaper. They also have, they mentioned in the notice that we got that there's the Daniel Marshall rechargeable humidity element, because I originally looked at the humidors and thought that those built-in slots on the lid were for Bovedas, because that looks very similar to how other companies have tried to integrate built-in Boveda holders, but apparently it's for one of Daniel Marshall's new humidity elements, so I'm always curious to see that, because as someone that does all of our humidification and humidor stuff, that's something interesting. We don't see a ton of innovation when it comes to desktop humidor humidifiers.
True. So, what do you got?
And there's more Daniel Marshall stuff coming too.
Okay.
That you haven't seen yet.
I can't.
Not as interesting as what we've reported on so far, but
what can beat the kois?
Not much. So number 5 on my end is Brooks just can't change the camera, so that's tough. Southern Draw. So I think that Southern Draw did not have any or did not make our honorable mentions list of Company of the Year in 2017, but I certainly think that they could have. They've had 2 cigars in the top 10 of the consensus last year, which certainly was something that I don't think anyone particularly saw coming. And I think that Robert and Sharon Holt's sort of message of, hey, we're just some good people trying to sell good cigars at a good price has really resonated with consumers and retailers as well as media. And I think the reason why that's happened is because it comes off as very genuine, and I do honestly believe that they are genuinely nice people. So they've had a lot of good. The one sort of question I have is how do retailers react to what's the last sort of 10 months of Southern Draw has been, which has largely been new product that has either been released first or exclusively at the big catalog stores. So I have right here the Ignite series, which Southern Draw introduced earlier this year. It's, I believe, 6 releases. Some of them have come out, some of them have not. Basically extensions of their current lines in weird sizes like Perfectos and Lanceros. And they are only sold at one of 3 major catalog retailers, either Cigars International, Famous Smoke Shop, or JR Cigars / Casa Monte Cristo / Sirius / whatever they bought last week. And they've also had another release that debuted first at Famous and had a pretty lengthy exclusivity window at Famous. And while I think retailers generally overreact to what's happening at catalog retailers, the brick and mortar retailers are certainly sensitive to that, and this is a trade show about brick and mortar retailers. And I think had Southern Draw not done that, you would have sort of going to show zero controversy. But instead we have a little bit of controversy, which always makes for some fun. So I'm curious to see if the retailers react to that. I'm curious to see what the Southern Draw booth is. Unfortunately, we accidentally left it off of our coverage last year, so I'm certainly fascinated to see. I think that's a company much like Romacraft. If you had to look at some of the smaller guys, that's a company, Brooks, where I would expect the booth to be quite busy.
Yes, he's made quite a bit of news for himself recently, and the company, and for good reason. Great guy and great company, and I enjoyed quite a few things that I've smoked from his. So I can't wait to see what they've got as well.
Yep.
All right, so my number 4.
Do you want to move you want to get your close up?
I can get my close up. Well, okay. I wasn't going to change over, but all right. My number 4, Colibri. Yes. I was interested in what Colibri has to do, and this year they have the new Quasar Cut, which is a open surface, they call it, cutter. It's based on a cutter of theirs from the 1960s. And the design is extremely interesting. It's not the only thing they'll come out with, obviously, but it's something that I really, really find fascinating in terms of how they're changing different, not just them, but different companies are changing how they're designing the cutters. Something that hasn't, you don't have a lot of different designs that you can really go with, different types of cutters. So I find it fascinating when they try to do something different. Xikar came out with the XO.
Yes.
XO, yes. XO just last year, and that was fascinating to me as well, and a very good cutter, by the way. So I love looking around them. I love seeing what they can do and what different companies can do. So for me, that's definitely one of the ones that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, Colibri, for me at least, was a company that was certainly one that I considered. I think the other thing with Colibri is Les Mann has now left. He was the longtime VP of sales for the company. They've replaced Les. I'm curious to see if we see any other changes. Not so much necessarily as independent of what Calibri's doing, but obviously Xikar, under their new ownership, is really tooling up and being aggressive, which is to be expected.
Yeah, so you got a number 4?
I do have a number 4.
Awesome.
So my number 4, please don't change the camera yet, is Bespoke. So this is a company that's been around for a few years, and they have their cigars are made in 2 different places, both in the Dominican Republic at the Kellner Boutique Factory, and then in Costa Rica at Tabacos de Costa Rica, which does Atabey, Byron, Bombay, Cuba Rica, and all sorts of other, basically everything that comes out of Costa Rica at this point. And so Bespoke is a cigar that's, this will be their first time at the trade show, and it's a cigar that I've been smoking and buying for myself quite a bit over the last 6 to 8 months. It's anywhere around medium, so from mild to medium full, smooth, complex, a little pricey. A lot of cigars in the $12, $14, $18 price range. Not a lot of cigars in the $6, $8 price range. A lot of weird sizes, big double perfectos, lanceros, closed feet, those sorts of things. It's and really just good cigars, and I don't mind paying the premium for them, particularly given how prices have risen over the last few years. And I'm curious to see if retailers around the country sort of catch on to it. I know they're doing very well at select cigar stores in the U.S., but I really think that if I had to sit there and look through the 150 or so companies that we're going to cover at the show, Bespoke is probably my top of the list of a company that could have a breakout show, largely due to the fact that this is their first show.
All right.
You smoked any Bespokes yet?
No, I don't believe I have.
Yeah.
So I'll with that high praise, I think I'd love to try them.
I'm not high right now. The marijuana blog's coming later.
I can't wait.
Number 3.
Number 3, for me at least, number 3 is Foundation. Now, Foundation had a big show last year, and for me, one of the best cigars of the year last year that I smoked was the Wise Man Maduro. Very, very good, extremely complex, just a wonderful overall smoke. Now, they are releasing a Wise Man Maduro Lancero this year, which is one of the reasons that I feel like that they're going to be interesting in terms of coverage. And I can't wait to try that as well, just because I feel like it's such a good blend that the Lancero may just take it up another notch. So for me, it's always a good place. It's always a good atmosphere, and always a good design in terms of the actual booth itself. Can't wait to go back.
Yeah, no, I think the booth design, you may want to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm still learning.
I think the booth design is always interesting from Nick, and then the other thing I think, and this is not something that we really talk about much, but the brochures that he gives out every year, or at least the last 2 years, have been extremely high quality. Some of the nicest ones, and one of those things that I don't know how many people care about him, but it's certainly interesting, and they certainly aren't cheap to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he's a great guy and great stuff. So here we go. What did you got for number 3?
My number 3 is Aganorsa Leaf, which barely fits on this paper. So Aganorsa Leaf is the company formerly known as Cas Fernandez. They announced earlier this year that they were changing their name. Late last year, they brought on Terrence Riley, who had been the longtime sales head at Quesada, to help lead up their U.S. sales operation. And it seems like Aganorsa Leaf is finally turning the page and beginning to rebrand itself. Aganorsa refers to a company in Nicaragua, which is one of the largest tobacco growers in Nicaragua. It's also a large cattle and pig purveyor, and it's owned by the Fernandez family, who owns, obviously, the Cas Fernandez brand, as well as the Tabsa factory, which makes most of Illusione's portfolio, a lot of Viajes and Warped cigars as well, and HVC and some other brands. Foundation that Brooks just mentioned a second ago has a line made there as well. So I think if you'd asked bloggers, if you'd asked retailers, if you'd asked even other manufacturers, I think they would have told you that Cas Fernandez is sort of the most underperforming brand. If you had to look at someone who's got good cigars, but for whatever reason just doesn't sell, that was always Cas Fernandez. And I think that for the most part, that's a pretty good indication of how things have gone. Since then, they've rebranded. They're trying to reintroduce new packaging for a couple new lines. They have one new line and then a new limited edition. And I'm curious to see how that works. The booth, as we noted last week, is a bit smaller, largely because Warped and Sindicato are no longer subletting space from them. But I think the Warped thing is an interesting one. If we had to take what are the companies that you're really looking forward to seeing at the show from a pure gawking perspective, Aganorsa Leaf is one of them, because Warped brought a lot of people to that booth that might have otherwise not come. It brought a lot of energy and some new life, and in last year's case, literally lights, to the booth, which otherwise at times seems and drab. And I'm curious to see what it looks like this year with Warped not there, because Cas Fernandez or Aganorsa Leaf, whatever we're going to call them, they certainly are on the right direction, but they still need to get over that hump. And I'm not sure if all the packaging changes are going to make it. Perhaps the packaging changes in Terrence and Max being a bit more involved, and everything else that they're doing will help to make for a bit livelier of a booth.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Warp stuff, and like you said, I am definitely interested to see how Warp goes on their own, and has their own booth. So we'll see how that works out. For me, number 2 is Davidoff. Now that's other way.
No,
other way.
90 degrees
Other way.
to the table.
Other way. Okay.
Look at that.
Yeah, about that. Davidoff brings it every year. Every year they do well. Every year they just tear it up. But this year is special. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary of the Davidoff brand, and they've got a whole bunch of stuff coming out. Diademas Finas has been re-released. The Avo 22, which is comes in the jars.
I can go get one.
Yeah, if you want, go get one. Careful. Which was one of my favorites when I smoked it a long time ago. Although I preferred the European version, but what do I know?
Do you want anything else?
You just take anything you got.
You want Liberty Series?
Anything you got. There's the 22. Very awesome thing there. There's the 50th. Yeah, we've already reviewed that. Charlie reviewed that and did very well with it. And the Camacho, also obviously part of the Davidoff brand, is released the.
We got props.
Look at that.
That box is really heavy.
Well, it's got wood in it for God's sake. So lots of good stuff to look at there and see there. Their booth is always awesome. It is smaller this year, significantly smaller actually. But I have no doubt that they'll do very well in terms of how it looks and what is in it. Charlie?
Yeah, I'm certainly curious. I've smoked this. Obviously, I reviewed it. I've not smoked this because it just showed up yesterday. But I'm certainly fascinated to see what that tastes like. Not smoked the Camacho Liberty. Can't say that I remember what the Liberty 2005 tasted like, though. We still have Avo LEO 5, which I imagine will probably be on display at the show. I'm not sure they'll be giving out samples. And then we've also got Davidoff Chef's Edition, which I also imagine will be at the show, but probably not giving out samples. Maybe they give one out at GBA. But other than that, Davidoff says they're done. It's just...
What? That's not enough?
It just says but I mean, this is already out. This is out. This might be out before the show.
Well, they do have the new humidors and the new cutters and things of that nature.
They have new humidors.
Lighters,
and
lighters.
ashtray that they don't have a pricing for yet.
So they have all that stuff as well as the anything that they release for Winston Churchill.
Nope.
Nothing.
No, I mean they've been clear. They're done with Davidoff White Label. I don't know for the Avo Camacho Zeno perspective what they've got planned. I was told not much, but we'll see. I imagine there's probably another Camacho LD sort of in the vein of like Shellback and some of those things. It would not surprise me if there's another. Well, I guess it would surprise me because they already announced all those Avo LDs, so I'm not sure I would necessarily expect to see much from that. They do have like those whatever it is 16. 14 master selection things they did in those crates, which I think are shipping shortly.
Hopefully we're getting a crate, right?
I don't where we're going to put it. But anyway, so there's that, but it's that I don't know. That release is tough because it's like, do you really want to smoke master selection 7? And there's no packaging. It's just big, gigantic crates. But no, I mean, I think I said it, I mentioned in the review, I remember talking to people early on when Davidoff announced all this stuff. I think if they could hit on one of these three things, plus LEO 5, not this, they can make one of them taste similar to how the originals were, then they've done all they need to do as far as I'm concerned. Because those three cigars in their original form were fantastic. Most of them aged particularly well. LEO 5 maybe being the worst of the three, but even still, it was a fantastic cigar to smoke 6-7 years later. So all you need to do is replicate one hit.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying the 22 especially. I was a big fan of it, and I'm really trying to not smoke it immediately. So.
Yeah, and the packaging on this is, I don't know how well you can see it on here, outside of the fact that it's all white and metallic, is absolutely fantastic. And the rest of the packaging, and the inlets inside, they really well done for Davidoff with these jars.
Yeah, I imagine the jars will do very well on our packaging awards.
This one, I don't know about this. This is kind of flimsy. I mean, it's flimsy.
Okay.
If they fixed this problem.
It's awkward.
I broke one. I broke the pre-production model of these when we did that thing with Scott in Tampa. Oh, no, they seemed to fix it. This wasn't glued in, so I pushed it out on the video. They were very, very concerned about that.
I'm glad they fixed that.
Yeah. All right, let's put all this stuff away. Do you want to...
Really hope I don't knock that over when I get up. Okay. You have a number 4?
I have a number 2.
Number 2?
Number 4.
Yeah.
4 was Saginaw Sleep? No, I don't know. Anyway, number 2. Altadis USA. So I think that the best way to judge someone or a company is to ask their competitors and to see what their peers have to say. And I think if you asked Altadis USA's peers, sort of the other 3 big multinational companies in the industry, so that would be General Cigar Company, Davidoff, and Drew Estate, I think that none of them would be very scared of what Altadis is doing. And I think that that's quite justified. And to be quite honest, I think Altadis realized that about a year and a half, 2 years ago. They basically fired their entire marketing staff. A couple of them stuck around, but they fired their agency. They fired most of the marketing department or transitioned them to other jobs. And they brought in new people. They brought in Rafael Nadal to help from Aging Room to help lead product innovation, which basically means blends, branding, those sorts of things. And we've now had a full year of all of them on board, or at least the leadership of the new marketing and product department. And I'm curious to see what this looks like in terms of, are we going to see new products from Altadis? From what we've seen so far, it's been a lot of marketing in very traditional standpoints. It's the non-Cuban brands. They have the rights to Romeo, to Monte Cristo, to H. Upmann. They've looked very traditional. The blends have not been particularly exciting, and their best solution to how do we make our brands seem new has been to do collaborations, and largely with AJ Fernandez. So you've got H. Upmann by AJ Fernandez, you've got Romeo by AJ Fernandez, you've got Monty by AJ Fernandez, everything by AJ Fernandez. You've got a new collaboration coming from Plasencia. They've done that before. And I'm just wondering, like, is this the show where we see something different? Because General, you can make fun of what they did with Foundry, and we certainly were critical of it at times, but it at least showed that there was a big company that was willing to do things differently, was willing to think outside of the box, to go after the young market, to do completely radical packaging from what their bread and butter is. And well, Foundry might have failed. I think if you take what Davidoff did, and they, with the rebranding of Camacho, with bringing in Matt Booth from Room 101, with what they did with Weiss and Ditka, well, the latter two may have not done as well as the first two, certainly had some success and certainly showed that this old Swiss company could go after the younger market. And Altadis so far has shown none of that ability. So I'm curious to see if we see anything different. I'm curious to see if we see them try to take some of their non-traditional Cuban brands like Gaspert or Henry Clay or Vega Fina, and to sort of spin them off in a Foundry-esque manner, because I do think even if the project fails, I think it's necessary for us to see that Altadis, both from a marketing standpoint and also from a blending standpoint, can put together cigars in-house without having to go to AJ Fernandez or Plasencia or Pete Johnson or Crown Heads or whoever the next person is, and can really put together a cigar that's different from Monty White and the rest of their core portfolio. Brooks?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Talking about specifically about Foundry, some of the blends that I smoked, I wasn't overly impressed with in terms of profile, but the packaging was interesting. There's no doubt about that. Eye catching. If they can do that again and actually, give it just a little bit more oomph in terms of, something like what Davidoff does, I think they could probably succeed.
Well, I think we saw that. So we saw Foundry with the craziness, and then you look at what CAO's been able to do. And so the packaging's a bit more restrained, but I remember when the Amazon Basin idea was being, explained to me, I think by you at iHeart Burgers after the trade show when it debuted. That seemed pretty radical, maybe not as radical as Foundry, but what General's been able to show with CAO is they've been able to do some of these crazier ideas. Obviously, CAO is not a brand like Monte Cristo or Macanudo where it's got this long traditional, history, but I think Foundry allowed for General to do CAO, or at least showed that they were capable of making interesting things. And then obviously with CAO, they've sold unbelievably successful.
Yeah, looking forward to it. All right, number...
To be very clear, I want to make... I know nothing of what Altadis is doing other than the aging room blowing up. I don't know if blowing up, but the reorganization of aging room. They announced a couple days ago that they were redoing basically the entire aging room portfolio and restructuring brands, discontinuing lines. So it's not like I know that there's some new modern Monte Cristo coming. I don't. I'm just wondering if we're going to see it, because I think it's needed perhaps 3 or 4 years ago.
It would certainly not be a shock.
I would say it actually would be for me.
No?
No,
I don't think so.
They haven't shown, like, with the first project that Rafael, at least that they publicly announced he did, was the Trinidad Santiago, which looked like any other Trinidad that they've ever done, and sort of didn't taste any different than anything I've assumed from Altadis. And then you take something like that Vega Fina, which is actually right down there, and that's that Vega Fina Siete Años, which was on our top 10 this year. Like, that cigar tasted so different from everything else that Altadis USA does. That was not an Altadis product. It was their Spanish subsidiary's product. But that came from Tabacalera de Garcia. It came from the same factory that makes Monty White and Romeo Reserva Real. And I don't know why they can't take that blend and put it into something for the U.S., barring, them releasing it in Spain and then bringing it over to the U.S. after it gets a very high score on a particular cigar blog.
Indeed. All right, number 1. So for me, number 1 is... wrong way. Tatuaje. Shocking, I know. I'm a big Tatuaje fan. Always have been. But this year is special. The last of the Monster series, presumably, are being released. The last of the Monster series. It is The Bride, which
You didn't like me doing
comes from. No, I didn't like that at all. The Bride from the Bride of Frankenstein. The series started back in 2008, and it is now has 11 full-size monsters and 2 smaller monsters, which were called up from the minor leagues, if you will. And I'm interested to see how it is. We've already has that gone live yet?
It has gone live.
All right,
That
so you can
packaging
go
is
on the
awesome.
You can go on the site right now and see the packaging of it. It looks very awesome to me, and I'm interested to see that. But there's more, which is to me even more interesting is the return of Jabaro. Back in 2007, Pete released 2 different vitolas of a unbanded cigar with a brush foot that were very difficult to get a hold of, for me at least. I tried and finally was able to, but it was something that I had always wanted to see again, and I'm glad he's bringing it back. Now, the original Jabaros were not made at My Father. These will be, and the original Jabaros also did not have bands. These will have bands, but in terms of the look and the aesthetic and all of that, it looks very good. It looks very similar. So I'm very interested to see how that tastes.
Yeah, there's also more stuff. Do you want to?
Well, no, I mean there's plenty of stuff.
Sorry. Well, no. There's more stuff coming that Pete has not announced yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't have that on my notes.
Yes. So there's, I believe, at least one more release coming. I think he's mentioned to me that he does not have details yet, but he did show off on his Instagram a gigantic Perfecto, which many people thought was RC233. It's the same size, but it's a different blend. He's not finalized, I would say, whether or not he's actually going to release that cigar, but I would say it's more than likely to happen. And then, excuse me, I think there'll be a couple other announcements about things that had previously been announced but haven't been released. It sounds like RC Series is finally going to get close to shipping in Europe, and will likely probably be on display at the trade show. It won't be available for purchase unless something has changed, but that will be heading out to stores in Europe, and so eventually some of those will trickle over, I'm sure, to the States, and maybe a couple of other small things. There's some other projects that are, there's a long-running list of things that every time I talk to Pete about sort of where we are with things that he's previously announced or hinted at that still haven't made it to shelves. So, but I would say at least one more release coming. He announced earlier today as well. There's 2 new Surrogates releases. I'm interested to try the Connecticut Broadleaf version of the 6 1/4 by 56, whose size I can't remember. 8-baller, I believe, is the name of that size.
Great name.
Great name. And then
We should do a top 10 names list.
15th, we can do that. We still have that one show that we haven't figured out yet.
Think
And
we
then
should.
there's the 415th cigars.
Yeah.
So he's got 2 sizes of torpedoes for the 15th anniversary that are being made at El Rey de los Habanos in Doral, Florida, and then they come in 2 different wrapper variations. So
one of the interesting things that I noted in your story about the monsters is that he had mentioned perhaps that it wasn't ending after this specific release, and that there may be something more coming.
yeah, I don't think it's ending. I think that the full-size monsters might be done, but I think that one thing that I know that Pete at times gets annoyed by the hysteria, maybe not, but at least all of the sort of complaining, particularly from his reps and the retailers, about the Monster series and about the Unlucky 13 and dress boxes and all those sorts of things. And the hassle, which is actually his middle name, that goes along with the Monster series releases. But the reality is that Monster series, if you just took the regular Monster series by itself, it is an unbelievably successful small cigar company. It's 50 some odd thousand cigars at $13 retail. They're basically sold out from start to finish. And
It's like printing money every year.
to some degree. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's highly successful. And so I would be surprised if Pete. I don't think he's struggling, but it would be a surprising business decision for him to just throw it completely away because, like I said, I mean he's been able to keep it alive and thriving for this long, he certainly cut back production a little bit, but it's still a pretty big release, and it still pretty much sells out. It takes a few months for it to leave shelves, but it would be surprising from a financial standpoint if he just said completely goodbye to it. Plus, he's still got to make those 2 other dress boxes because we have 2 spots on our big wall of dress boxes, and I'm OCD.
True.
All right. My number 1?
Number 1.
My number 1 is Xikar. So I think that there are a few brands that have endeared themselves to U.S. Cigar consumers and probably cigar consumers around the world, quite frankly, like Xikar, the accessory company which celebrated 20 years last year, I believe. And it was sold earlier this year. It was bought by Quality Importers, and Xikar is now under new management. Kurt is still around and still part of the team, but he's no longer, the head of the company. That position now goes to Michael Giordano and then Michael Salucci, the CEO and president, respectively, at Quality Importers. A couple weeks ago, they brought in Les Mann, the longtime VP of Sales at Colibri, who also had the same role at S. DuPont back in the day. And I'm curious to see. I don't know. I have not asked Salucci, but I don't know all of the Xikar products that will be released at this year's show, how many of them are sort of pre-sale designs and how many of them were developed after the sale, or at least were finalized after the sale. I suspect it's going to be a mixture of both. What I'm more curious to see is what retailers react to Quality Importers having control of Xikar. Those 2 companies' ethos, I would say, are very different. I would describe Quality Importers as extremely aggressive. They were a company that was probably best known for acquiring other accessory brands. Xikar is not a brand that I would describe as, or particularly a company that I would describe as uniquely aggressive. They sort of put their head down, mind their own business, and just try to worry about being the best version of Xikar they could be. And I think for many years that was extremely successful. Xikar had the largest accessory sales force in the country, that quite honestly one of the largest sales forces of any company in the cigar business. Zykar's market penetration is outstanding. Obviously, they're known, sort of that affordable luxury, maybe not affordable luxury, but great value, lifetime warranty, and they have a rabid fan base. So I'm curious to see how retailers react. I'm curious to see if there's any noticeable changes beyond just the Quality Importers and Xikar booths being very close to each other. I'm curious to see, if there's any pushback. I'm curious to see what the products look like, how the Xikar sort of team, and I think it was very much a sales force that feels like they are a family. I'm very curious to see if that still is intact or if we're seeing signs of that eroding. And those all sound like negative things, and I think many of them are not necessarily positive, but those are all things that are going to happen. Xikar is under new management, and it's very rare for a company to be acquired by someone else, particularly if they operate in the same space, and for them not to make some changes, because I think that otherwise you're just acquiring revenue, which most people don't do. So I suspect that we're going to see some changes in Xikar. I don't think that means the end of the lifetime warranty. I don't think that means the XI is going to be made out of cheap plastic anytime soon. But I do think we're going to see some changes, and I think we're going to see Xikar go in spaces that they previously haven't gone in, and I think we're going to see them go to price points they haven't previously gone in. And, I think some of them will be good. I'm sure some of them we might find to be not so great. And I think that this year's trade show could very well be the starting point of that.
Yeah, I've always loved Xikar as a company, and they're very interested. You're right, to see how this all plays out. One quick note. I have found be extremely surprised by the number of people who actually don't know anything about Zykar's lifetime warranty. I had 2 conversations with people this week that had cutters that were having issues and had no clue that they could actually just return those to a retailer and get another new one for any reason, really. Although I haven't tried the whole "I don't like the color anymore" thing. I've been told that they will take it back, but I haven't tried it.
I think they will. I mean, the retailers will.
Retailers will.
Yeah, because you're just like, the color's bad and it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I don't feel like a man anymore, having this.
Great. So we skipped over the beer break because we were moving so quickly through this. So do you want to talk about the beer?
Yes. You grab the can for me?
I will.
So a beer is one of the Never series from the Veil Brewing Company. It's a very good, as I said, Fruited Goza. It's a double passion fruit, Never, Never, Forever, Forever. They have a Never Forever, which is a single fruited, obviously, and a Never Forever 3.
This is going well.
That is triple the fruit. These things have quite a bit of fruit in them. The triple ones, some of the triple fruited ones have actually exploded on people. There's YouTube videos online if you'd like to look.
Why didn't we do that?
Well, we can. I've got one in the thing, but
That
no,
would've been
let's
good
not do.
Facebook
Let's
Live
not do
content.
that. Very good, very awesome, and if you like the fruited sours, they're doing some of the best in the country.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Do you like passion fruit?
Yeah, I actually am a big fan of passion fruit. But no, I think it's good. I'm not sure that it would necessarily be great outside at 103 degrees. I think maybe 85, 90 degrees is probably my limit of when I'd actually want to be drinking these. But goes down smooth. It's only 5.1 ABV, so not that big of a beer.
Yes.
But sort of a big goza, I guess.
In terms of ABV, yeah.
Yeah.
They tend to stick around 3.5%, give or take. But there are people now making imperial versions that go quite a bit higher than that.
All right, so we are now going to try to go through the comment section and see if there are companies on here. I know there are at least a few that we did not mention, and we can talk about them. Christopher Bros mentioned Crown Heads.
Yes, I'm looking forward to see what kind of hats they have. I'm always impressed with the hats.
I imagine this will be the feature IPSPR hat.
That's pretty awesome. If I wore hats, it'd be awesome.
That hat coincides with a new release, which I imagine a certain cigar blog will probably talk about tomorrow on its cigar blog website. But so far, Crown Heads has only announced 2 new releases. They have the Lancero for 4 Kicks Maduro, and then they've got the 6x60 for the Connecticut line, whose name escapes me. I want the orange band. It's somewhere over there. Anyway, that went well. But so far, only 2 SKUs from Crown Heads, and I think there's a new line coming, if that hat is any indication. EPC?
Yeah, I haven't heard much about what they're releasing there. I'm actually covering them
Ringmaster.
at this show. Other than the Ringmaster, I was going to tell you.
John Huber says thanks for the backhanded compliment regarding the hats.
It was a joke, not a. Come on.
I thought you were being serious about liking the hats. They are nice
I
hats.
love the hats. That wasn't the only thing I'm looking forward to. Come on, John.
Neither one of us can wear hats.
Come
but-
on, John. I love your stuff. EPC, yeah, the Ringmaster. I haven't heard much about. I haven't heard much about anything else. I am covering him at the show, but I always find it. I mean, was it 2 years ago they released like 40 different SKUs?
Pyramid.
Yeah, and the FDA pyramid. But I don't think they'll go quite that big this year. But I'm always looking forward to seeing what they've got.
I think the Ringmaster's curious. It's certainly when you say
That totally sounds like.
when you say a line of 6x64 or 64 ring gauge cigars that are called Ringmaster, not entirely exciting to half wheel, because I think the only thing that goes through my mind is hopefully I don't have to review it. But it could be good, but it's too much for.
Only thing goes through my mind is a poor '80s movie dealing with wizards.
Anyway, so I think that it'll be curious to see what else they do. But yeah, I hopefully something beyond the Ringmaster would be my hope. Tim McCabe says looking forward to seeing what Ventura puts out now that Michael Giannini's there. I certainly think that's an interesting company in terms of where they're going. I know they have new Archetype series, as well as they announced something else that's escaping me. They obviously announced the Island Lifestyle Importers / Time Bahama accessory distribution deal, but I feel like there was another cigar they announced. Maybe not. Any thoughts on Ventura?
No, I don't smoke a lot of their stuff in general. That's not saying that they're bad or anything, but I believe that I smoked one of them that I really liked. So it's just a matter of going by there and seeing what they've got.
Warfighter is the suggestion from Tony Tamparello. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I don't believe I've smoked anything from Warfighter. Did you cover their booth last year? Or was
I
it
did.
Patrick?
Did I? But look, I like what they're doing. I like the concept behind what they're trying to do with the giving the money to the troops and things of that nature. And I really I think that I think it's a good company to get behind for sure. I haven't tried their stuff as far as I remember, but I'm sure that they put a lot of effort into it, and I can't wait to try it.
And have you contacted them this year, or is that
I
somebody
have,
else's
but
job?
we are in
Negotiation?
we are talking now.
All right. Chris Boggs, or Chase Boggs, sorry, mentions Drew Estate, which appears to be on a few other people's lists as well. Patrick actually said that he covered Warfighter last year, for what that's worth. So Drew Estate has got a lot of stuff coming. They have not announced much of it. They've announced bundles. They've sort of announced Kentucky Fire Cured Suites. They announced Isla de Sol extensions. I last was told that there is a new Liga Privada coming. I don't know much about it. Otherwise, we would certainly have it on our site, and that's beyond the Corona Viva. But it does sound like there's a new legal line coming. I don't think it's the same cigars that they necessarily shipped as part of the Anniversario release that was done pre-FDA as part of a sort of Phantom brand. But I would suspect there's probably a new Liga Privada coming. I would also suspect that it will be announced next week. And certainly if we were doing this, I would say post new Liga Privada announcement, which is once again most likely coming, then I think this changes. Certainly the cigars you're looking forward to list would change dramatically, at least in my end, if there was a new Liga Privada coming, because it's been a while since we've had a new line. I guess technically 252 was the last one. But yeah, I would say a lot more stuff coming. It looks like there might be a Jerez de Norteño from Miami, from El Titan de Bronze. And I'm sure that they've got other stuff. So certainly a company that would be one to pay attention to. I'm just not sure that they did enough in terms of announcing things or having enough controversy throughout the year or whatever that made it onto my top 5 companies. But
Yes, they should have fired more people apparently. But
did they fire anyone? We won't get into that. I don't think they fired that many people.
Well, no, I'm saying to get more news.
Oh. Yeah,
Should have fired more
no,
people.
Brooks, don't say that.
So I love Drew Estate, as I always have. The Corona Viva, wow. Liga Privada number 9, Corona Viva, thank you, was very good, and I am looking forward to anything that they produce in terms of a new Liga. Always a big deal. I'm interested to try the bundle stuff. I'm interested to try it and see what it's like, see what they can do with it. It's an interesting concept to me, and I feel like that if anybody's going to do it fairly well, they probably can. So.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Estate did do those Blue Ribbon bundles a few years ago, which I think were long filler. Certainly not as cheap as what the new bundles are going to be, but the new bundles are mixed filler, so I don't know. We'll see. I suspect that they will get lost in the mix of the massive amount of Drew Estate releases. Tim McCabe, who I think we already mentioned at one point, says he's looking forward to seeing what Espinosa, Protocol, and anything from the Lazona factory. What's interesting, I don't think the Espinosa did announce stuff. They announced him like a month ago, which seems forever ago. I don't know, Patrick would know better because he wrote the story. I don't know if that stuff is actually coming from Lazona, because Espinosa moved most of his production over to AJ's new factory in San Rafael. Whereas most of the client brands were left at Lazona and Esteli. We have the new protocols. I know you photographed them a couple weeks ago.
Yes, this is my next review, actually.
So I guess we'll figure out at least one of the new protocols, what that's going to be like. I know that certainly online there is a massive Espinosa following. And I know that our commenters like to point that out at every time. So I'm sure that when we do cover the Espinosa, the protocol booths, Moya Ruiz, and some of the other people that make cigars there, I'm sure that we will see a lot of comments for them. Someone's name who I'm not going to attempt to pronounce because there are a lot of accent marks, including ones that I don't recognize, wants to say that he's excited, or she, I suppose, about Dunbarton, Warped, and Drew Estate equally. So we've been over all of them other than Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, which is Steve Saka's company. 2 new releases coming from them. We've got the larger size of the Todos Los Dias Lonsdale, I believe is the first one. Is that the right brand?
And the Sin
Sin Compromiso.
Compromiso.
You want to try that again?
Compromiso.
Oh, look at that.
Compromiso. Compromiso.
So 2 new releases, one of which Sin Compromiso we've known about for many years. It's been one of those things he's been trying to perfect and is now finally ready to be released. The Dunbarton booth is always one of the busier booths, particularly among small people. I would say them and Roma Craft are the two. I believe that, I forget if we've moved that to someone else. I traditionally am the one that covers it, but I know that we've had some logistical changes this year. But I'm sure that it will be busy as always. I'm sure that Saka will be swamped. And I'm sure that he will be in a chipper mood, as he always is during the trade show. Albeit like chipper and not complaining about like how little people there are. He just complains about how he's having like too much success and he shouldn't be having it, and people are falling for it.
I love getting him into conversations about tobacco because he can just go on and on and on, and not in a bad way, in a very good way. He's extremely knowledgeable, and I love to talk to him about tobacco because it's somebody that you can just listen to forever in terms of that, if you're actually interested in that kind of thing.
Next up, we have someone that says #Jocelyn Cruel, which is not surprising. Jocelyn Cruel is back at the trade show this year, which is somewhat surprising given Restay's comments about the IPCPR. Certainly someone that I was surprised to hear when he told me he had trade show releases coming. He has a mixed fill cigar actually, and he's got another new line. And I haven't smoked a ton of Jocelyn Cruel stuff of late. I don't know if I've smoked anything really from the new factory since he switched earlier this year. My guess would be not. But there's another line that's got rabid fan base, perhaps a bit more controversy than Espinosa does. And I'm sure, once again, the comment section when we post that will be interesting. Have you smoked any Jocelyn Cruel stuff lately?
Not lately. Reviewed something last year, I think. But their people online are very avid posters and love the line quite a bit.
All right. We've got Guillermo Alvarez Jr. says Christoph. I don't know. We may have written about something that Christoph is doing. I can't recall specifically. That's a Patrick question, unfortunately. So, yeah, if they are doing something, I don't think it's much. But I could be confusing their TA approach and their IPCPR approach. I'm sure Patrick will correct me shortly. Thinking of Ventura Archetype miniseries. No, that was what I mentioned. It was the other thing, Patrick. Christoph has the return of a brand that Vengeance. I don't think that's. Sorry.
It sounds very aggressive.
It is Vengeance. Well, it was originally spelled in a manner that looked like it was the Portuguese version of Vengeance, and I was confused if that was the way that it actually was supposed to be pronounced. Yeah, so Christoph Vengeance returns. I've never smoked Vengeance, to my knowledge. You?
No.
Okay, so we got something to look forward to from the Christoph booth. Mombacho. Spencer Workman says, what do you guys know about Mombacho? Are they a sleeper to keep an eye on? I do know that Mombacho's got the Cosecha 2013, which, from what I recall, was supposed to be released a couple months ago, but has not. And so there's that release. I don't know if they've got anything else, because they have not told us yet, to my knowledge.
One of my favorite companies, just a real great people that run it, and very, very genuine. And their stuff is always very good to me.
Patrick also mentions that Christoph is adding Connecticut Habano and Maduro lines or adding Coronas to their respective core lines in March, which was like 6 years ago, as far as I'm concerned at this point. One last one. Ben, whose last name I'm not going to try to butcher, can't wait to see what Alec Bradley is going to release. They've got 2 new cigars. They have the cigar from Alec and Bradley, the respective sons, and it's described as sort of their first attempt. They let them run wild. They didn't get involved with it. Their first attempt at blending a cigar. Their father is Alan Rubin, who named the company after his 2 sons, Alec and Bradley. They've also got another release, which they sent press releases out for, calling it a mystery cigar. It's coming from Raíces Cubanas. We opted not to write about it because if Perdomo had sent us the same had told us the same thing, we wouldn't write about it. I mean, we're not going to write about a cigar where there's the only information we have is it's going to be shown at the trade show and it's coming from this factory.
And it's a mystery.
Well, no, it's a mystery up until the trade show. It will not be a mystery, I don't think, at the trade show. I think they will.
I would hope not.
Anyway, so we opted not to write about it, but they do have 2 new lines. They told me that was it, so we will see what said mystery line is. So, with that, I know that we've had, Dave Frakes. Apparently
Industrial cigars.
Apparently there are more comments.
Up in Frisco?
In Frisco.
Plano?
In Frisco.
I don't know.
So David Frakes suggests he's looking forward to the new Crux Limitada. There are 2 of them, actually.
Indeed, yeah. They're releasing the Red Line and the Gunner, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
So that'll bring the total to 4 in that line. They've got the
4
IPCPR.
different
4 different...
secondary bands, I suppose.
in the line.
Yeah, in the line. But they've had, that's got to be close to 8 cigars now?
Oh, well, you mean different Vitolas. Yeah, 4 different Vitolas in the line.
No. They've had, I think, more than 4 different Vitolas. Because I think this is the 3rd or 4th year of Limitada. And with the exception of the first year, they've had 2 each year.
Yeah, but they were the same size.
Some of them were. But I don't think the 2 show exclusives were the same size.
I think they were.
We'll find out.
We'll get back to you on that. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see. They've released 2 of those. They've got that wrapper they say is theirs. They're only they're exclusive to them that I can't pronounce. English something or other. Inglaniso. I'm just gonna mumble Inglaniso.
Isn't it like an A? It's like Angra something or other.
I don't know.
Or
Otherwise, I would tell you what it is.
It's an E.
I liked the IPCPR quite a bit, and I've always liked the PB5. Although I like the IPCPR release a little bit better than the PB5. So I'm interested to see in the smaller sizes what that does.
Tim McCabe wants to know if there's anything new from Caldwell. There are 2 new lines we've already reported about from Caldwell. In addition to that, there are 2 new Room 101 related lines. If either Matt Booth or Robert Caldwell are watching this, it would be very nice if you would get back to us so we could find out about pricing for those lines or blend info. Don't call Brooks, call Patrick or I.
It's not my story.
It would be helpful. Yeah, so there are 2 new Room 101's lines coming. At some point, we will report about them, but we would prefer to have a bit more information. Neither one of them are coming from the Raíces Cubanas factory, if that's what you're wondering. Because I know that's what you were. I'm going to pour this into a glass, because Patrick said that was needed to happen.
Okay.
One of the things we got told to do. David Richard Williams II wants to know if the FDA issue going to D.C. will have a big effect. As I reported about earlier this morning, the FDA lawsuit in Texas has been moved to D.C., so the cases will be combined. I certainly don't think that it's a good thing. It would have been much better had they stayed separately. As far as having a quote-unquote big effect, maybe. It really depends on the D.C. court. If the D.C. court rejects the motion for either an injunction or stay, because the appeals process is going on. So basically the way this is working is they've said they're going to appeal, and in the meantime they've asked the court to issue an injunction to prevent the warning label rules from going into effect on August 10th until after the appeal can be resolved. That matter is before the court now. If the court sides with the cigar industry on that matter and says, yes, we will wait until to see about the warning labels and we will delay their implementation, then I don't know if it'll have a quote-unquote big effect because, at that point you got the desired outcome, at least the initial desired outcome. Obviously, the larger question is about the appeal. If the court says no, then yeah, it certainly would have a big effect because it definitely seemed like I was in the courtroom in Texas last week. It seemed like the judge was, Brooks, don't do that. It seemed like the judge was really interested in moving that case or moving the case along and then delaying the warning labels until, she opened the proceedings asking if there would be any issue with delaying them until or through the end of the year. So, yeah.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple more, and I'm going to put like a 5-minute time limit on this because, unfortunately, I have to go drop my car off because, this week gets a lot more fun as the days go on. So someone whose name I'm not going to try to mispronounce is asking about La Barba. La Barba has one new line, which we've already announced. It's a Connecticut line. No, it's a Maduro line. One of the two. It's somewhere in between.
They're so similar that.
Yeah, what is it? I feel like it's a Maduro line. Patrick's going to correct me on this. Anyway, so La Barba has one new line that they've announced. They have something else coming. I don't know if it's like a new line or a limited edition or an extension or whatever. That same person also wants to know about Warped, which we sort of talked about but wasn't on any of our lists. Warped has only a couple cigars, really. They've got the new Lancero, which is a limited edition, and then they announced something else, but once again, it was weeks ago, and my mind's blanking on it. I'm curious to know with Warped if they've got more stuff, because traditionally they've sort of they've announced what they've got, and then they've shown up at the trade show with additional stuff. If you recall from last year's coverage, Siri 1988 was announced and shown off by Warped. That has not shipped, to my knowledge. And I asked Kyle about whether or not there was any update on that, and he told me there's not. So we'll see if it's actually going to be at the trade show. We've already covered Crown Heads. Hammer and Sickle is someone just asked about that. Hammer and Sickle is not going to be at the trade show, at least as I was told by the IPCPR, as unfortunately happened earlier or last month. Eric Hansen, the company's founder and primary owner, if not owner, passed away unexpectedly, and the company, at least from what the IPCPR has told me, has removed themselves from the list. So they will not be at the trade show. Justin Hansen just said, I just hopped on, but I read that Scandinavian Tobacco Group, which is the parent company of Cigars International and General Cigar Company, had good growth in the handrolled category. Anything exciting there from your point of view? Well, as far as the General Cigar goes, they've announced Punch Diablo. They've got more releases coming. General is one of those companies that typically announces stuff at the show. They'll usually announce one or two things before the show, and then most of it at the show. This is the 50th anniversary of Macanudo, so I expect that there is going to be some sort of Macanudo 50 release. I would say that is of note and interesting. I'm not. It's been a while since I've had a Macanudo that's really impressed me. I don't know about you, Brooks.
That impressed me, no. I have smoked a couple of them in the last few months, but it's never really hit my palate correctly. But if they do a 50th, maybe it'll be something different that we love.
Yeah. As far as that goes, I don't know exactly. As far as Cigars International and Meyer and Dutch, and if they've got anything else coming from them, that's the same company that's behind basically the Diesel and the Humacare and the Man of War. I would suspect they probably have another Diesel line. I don't know if they necessarily want to interact with the new or interfere with the new Diesel. I'm always curious about accessories, so I'm curious to see if Humacare's got anything new. I don't know. For whatever reason, when I get to the trade show, maybe it's just I'm so sick of writing about cigar press releases. Accessories seem to be what interests me once I get there. I don't know if that's the case for you.
No, I'm actually quite interested in the cigars, but I don't write as many press releases as you do, so that could be the reason.
That is a true statement. Yeah, you also don't really cover as many accessory booths.
No, thankfully.
Yeah. Is it the only one you do?
Vissel?
Wiesel. Yeah. There's a lot of skews between those two booths, though.
Indeed, there are.
All right, so we're going to take one. David Richard Williams says he needs a tobacco flying pig. Call it bacon. I'm sure someone from Drew Estate's watching. I know On was on here earlier, so perhaps On can make that happen. So we're going to call it a day for this one. So, excuse me. We'll be back on Thursday to talk about our top 5 cigars. Is that what I said?
That's what you said.
We're talking about our top 5 cigars.
That we're looking forward to.
At least of the ones that have been announced. And we'll also be back on Monday and I think Tuesday because of next week, because I think I'm on a plane on Wednesday, so that would be a bit challenging to do. And we will post up, and we will have a post on the site that goes up on time. Unfortunately, I forgot to do that, so Patrick had to rush and get that done, and I thank him for doing that.
Thank you, Patrick.
Do they still sell domino tables at the show? I do not know, Manuel, if they sell dominoes tables at the show. So we will be back here. I hope you have a good 4th of July. As I mentioned, on every holiday, there is no time like the present to go out and smoke your crazy rare cigars, those that you've been saving onto forever, because you do not know how much time you have, and you don't know how much time your humidor's got before there's beetles in it. So I hope you go out and smoke your rare stuff tomorrow and have a good day. And then I hope you're back here Thursday, once again at 1 p.m. Central Time to join Brooks and I as we talk about our top 5 cigars that we were looking forward to at the trade show. The format will be pretty much exactly the same. We'll ask the same sort of question. What cigar are you looking forward to most at the trade show? Brooks and I will go down our list. We will drink another beer, hopefully as good as the one from today. Maybe it will explode. Maybe it won't. Drew Estate will give away another prize, and we'll take your questions and try to answer them. And, yeah, anything else, Brooks, to add?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. I will, as soon as we get off from here, I will announce the contest winner, and then I have to go and take my car to the mechanic. And then I will announce the contest winner. Saw that coming, Brooks. I will announce the contest winner, and then I will also like put an update at the top, so that way you don't have to email me to ask like, hey, I know it said like, congrats, you are the winner. Was I the winner? So I will announce specifically whose name it is up at the top, so that way there is zero confusion this time around. And I apologize because that was my fault. All right.
Good talk.
Good talk. Can I have the iPad though?
You may.
Because we got to do a sponsor message. Thank you to Drew Estate for sponsoring this broadcast and all of our other pre-show coverage of the 2018 IPCPR Convention and Trade Show. If you don't win our prize, don't forget that Drew Estate is giving away a prize pack of their own, and you can go to drewestate.com/IPCPR to enter to win that prize pack, or you can click like anywhere on our site and go to the ads that take you there. Until Thursday.
Pre-show coverage of the 2018 IPCPR Convention and Trade Show is sponsored by Drew Estate, the rebirth of cigars.